What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Gen V Season 2. The Boys spin-off series on Amazon Prime Video has concluded its second season, which of course is taking place in between the previous season of The Boys, Season 4, and is now directly tying into the fifth and final season of The Boys that we know we will be getting next year. That is a series that has completed filming already. And I think Gen V Season 2 was very successful. I think this was a level up season in many respects because there's a lot of really compelling character progression in Season 2, particularly with the Marie character. Lizzie Broadway as Emma remains the MVP of the series for me. I also think the character of Jordan continues to be used very well. And while Gen V and The Boys is no longer surprising for its relevance to our current social and political climate, it continues to make astute observations. It continues to be an action-packed and flashy show with its production, with the way it communicates that action. And with Season 2, this feels like a meaningful and impactful spin-off and an essential piece of that Boys storytelling. And that's exactly what you want with a spin-off series. Whether Gen V actually returns for a third season, with it now clearly directly tying into the last season of The Boys, I'm not sure. But I think this was a really satisfying and well-constructed season. Now, one of the things I really enjoyed about what Season 2 did to start was very quickly getting us back to Godolphin University, getting us back to God-U, and getting us back to that concept of this being a team, a fledgling new team of students, and the concept of superhero college. And that was just such a great, high concept idea for a spin-off in the Boys universe. And we got a lot of that done really well in that first season. But the end of the first season, of course, took us to Elmira, took us away from that core setting. I was really happy we got back to that, and I thought Hamish Linklater's presence as the villain Cypher for the majority of the season was a great way to kind of get us back there. That character used as a sort of Dolores Umbridge at Hogwarts type storytelling device in Harry Potter. I like the combat training that Cypher was doing to try and build people up, particularly his interest in Marie. I liked all that as a construction, and I thought that was a great way to bring the characters together and still stick to that core Gen V, ethos, what this show has kind of been about, what makes it different. And as I said, I liked Hamish Linklater as that lead villain. Of course, we learn a lot more about the true origins, the true motivations of Cypher towards the end of the season. But for our initial understanding of the character, I think that was working quite well. Now, obviously, what happens at the end of the penultimate episode and the main focus of the finale is, of course, the true nature of the founder of the university, Godolphin himself, played by Ethan Slater. And when we saw that original flashback to kick off Season 2, and you could see that Slater was playing the character, I kind of had in the back of my mind the entire time, I was like, oh, interesting that they would actually cast someone, kind of famous, well-known, of course, part of the Wicked ensemble, for example, to cast someone like that to play this character if they weren't going to come back. So it kind of made sense, and it was kind of maybe easy to see that the old, very heavily burned hyperbaric chamber laying person in Cypher's home was, in fact, Godolphin. Now, what I was not expecting was that Godolphin was actually the puppet master of everything the entire time, pulling the strings with his powers, and Cypher was just a construction and really an innocent bystander in the whole thing. I thought all of that was pretty cool. I was also pretty certain that the finale of the second season would dispense with the threat, right? Godolphin was not going to do something in one episode and then be the big bad going into a third season or something. That just didn't feel like where we were going. So the fact that he was taken out by all of the Gen V ensemble that we know, I think that makes a lot of sense and was a final payoff for the arc that's happened with the Marie character, where she has really developed into a powerful soup and got on quite the emotional progression as well. I think Jack Sinclair did a really nice job this season. I think this was a character that was a bit more up and down in the first season and a lot more consistent this time around. And they were able to play off, the presence of Cypher and then later Godolphin pretty well to build her up as the true lead of the show. I think my biggest beef with how that character was used was I just didn't think the relationship with Jordan was given enough time. That felt a bit rushed, and then they kind of concludes, or Jordan doesn't want to stay together anymore, want to just be friends type thing. That all felt a little neat and a little packed in. We'll see if they're able to color that in a little bit in the future. I'm not sure. Didn't think that was the strongest material. As I said, though, I love Lizzie Broadway as Emma, and while Emma gets less of like lead plots and like a lot of her own stuff this time around, I think she was more of a separate and outstanding part of the ensemble in season 1. She's really just kind of part of the core group the majority of the time with season 2. The performances is, I think, really great. The character itself is really great. The way it adds a lot of, I think, levity and lightness to generally pretty dour and dark circumstances that we come to expect in the boys universe. Character works really well. Even the like jealousy between Sam and the other guy for her affection, I thought was done to pretty strong effect as well. The Sam character otherwise I thought was pretty lost, pretty to the side, nothing too great apart from that stuff. I liked in the early beginning too. I love I think it's episode 1 or 2, the frat house, the concept of a frat house at a soup college, and just the sight gags and physical comedy you get out of that. I thought that was really funny, seeing the soup pledges and stuff too. I enjoyed that kind of stuff. Reminds me of Monsters University from Pixar. And season 2 continued to enrich this as like a really connected piece of the boys universe. Of course, we remember what happened at the end of the season 1 of Gen V, where Homelander, massacres people at the school. I wasn't necessarily expecting Homelander to show up again in this finale, despite us seeing him calling Sister Sage on her phone. But we still saw Sister Sage, understanding that she was in cahoots with Godolkin, understanding his machinations and his true identity and all of that. That was interesting. Of course, in the beginning, we see Starlight, see her in the finale as well, alongside A-Train. Bit of a surprise appearance from Giancarlo Esposito's Stan Edgar, the former leader of Vought, in the penultimate episode as well. And then where the finale leaves us, where we have definitely left God U. I think we're not going back to the school if there happens to be a Gen V Season 3. Instead, all of our core crew, really in the entirety of the crew, right, they're all joining up with that resistance, right? The anti-Vought resistance, the anti-Homelander rebels. And that's cool. We just got a lot of characters that we've come to know quite well now brought directly into the boys for that final season. I'll be curious to what degree they have to play in that final season, because they are the stars of the other show. So like we have to expect that the boys' final season will still be led by, Jack Quaid and Carl Urban and Anthony Starr, right? We're not going to see a ton of the Gen V folks, but hopefully we see a good amount of them, because it feels like they've really earned this melding of the two shows. And honestly, like the way the show was paced and the way the plot worked, I mean, you wouldn't really know that they had to rewrite and reconstruct a lot of that storytelling on the part of course, Chance Perdomo's, surprise, shocking death, before production kicked off. And as a result, you see his loss as a looming aspect of a lot of the show, particularly in the beginning. But I really enjoyed the conversation between Polarity, Andre's father, and also the non-possessed version of Cypher, Hamish Linklater. I enjoyed that scene they had about Andre right before Black Noir shows up. But in general, you get a lot of Polarity, and I think they managed to actually kind of land that plane with that character. I wasn't necessarily vibing with it in the beginning, but I think that also kind of came together and worked out as him kind of being the fall guy in a sense, remaining back at the school while everyone else gets to escape. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of these characters, and that's independent of the boys' finale. I would not be shocked if maybe they make a new show, they make a new season of Gen V post the boys. Not really sure. We do know they're making that Boys Mexico series, although that is still in the pilot phase, so no guarantees they actually make that show. We'll see. But yeah, looking forward to boys finale next year. Let me know what you're most excited to see in that, as well as Gen V. And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.